Monty Python and the Holy Grail wasn't just a movie, it was a siege on cinema. Filmed in mud with fake horses, borrowed costumes, and no real ending. But behind the coconuts and chaos, the crew nearly froze. The lead was battling alcoholism. And the Black Knight sequence? It all started with a strange little story John Cleese heard back in grade school. These are 20 weird facts about Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And buried in the madness, the extras weren't actors at all, just tourists who showed up and got paid in costumes and lunch. Brace yourself, logic doesn't live here anymore. Number 1. They had the script, they had the cast, they had the madness. But what they didn't have was a single studio that believed in them. Every major distributor passed. Too weird, too British, too cheap. Some execs didn't even make it past the coconut bit. Monty Python was famous, on television. But a medieval epic with no horses, no stars, and no traditional structure? That wasn't an easy sell. So they turned somewhere else. To the musicians. Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Genesis, even Elton John's record label. Not as producers, but as fans. These weren't corporate investments. They were favors, passion projects. Pink Floyd reportedly used money from Dark Side of the Moon to help fund it. Led Zeppelin chipped in between stadium tours. They wanted something strange, something new. And Monty Python delivered it, in chainmail and chaos. In the end, Holy Grail wasn't funded by Hollywood. It was funded by rock and roll, and that's why it exists at all.
What does it say?
He who is valiant and pure of spirit may find the Holy Grail in the castle of...
What?
The castle of... He must have died while carving it.
If he was dying, he wouldn't bother to carve arg. He'd just say it. Perhaps he was dictating. Oh, shut up.
Number 2. They didn't write the coconut joke to be funny. They wrote it because they were broke. The script originally had real horses, big battles, galloping knights, a proper epic. But when they saw the budget, there was no chance. Renting trained horses was impossible. Training the actors to ride them? Even worse. So they threw it out, and in its place came coconuts, clopped together by a sidekick in every scene. It wasn't just a gag, it was survival. And somehow, it became one of the most iconic bits in British film history.
You're using coconuts.
What?
In Mercia, the coconut's tropical.
What do you mean?
Well, this is a temperate zone. Are you suggesting coconuts migrate?
Not at all. They could be carried.
A 5-ounce bird could not carry a 1-pound coconut.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Number 3. In the earliest drafts, Holy Grail wasn't just medieval. It jumped time. The film was supposed to open in the past, then break into the present halfway through. Knights riding through 1970s London. Battles happening in parking lots. Holy relics in modern office buildings. It was absurd, even for Monty Python. But as the script evolved, the modern stuff got cut. Except for one thing, the ending. That chaotic fourth wall breaking cops show up for no reason ending, that's what survived. Because some things were just too weird to throw away.
History for schools, take 8.
Seems to have utterly disheartened King Arthur. Ferocity of the French taunting took him completely by surprise. Now this is what they did.
Number 4. Scotland was cold, the crew was miserable, and everything that could go wrong did. The first day of filming was supposed to be simple, but the cameras jammed, the light vanished, the costumes soaked through with rain. Graham Chapman, already battling alcoholism, was too shaken to deliver his lines. Gilliam and Jones, the two directors, were shouting over each other. At one point, the producers considered pulling the plug. Day 1, scene 1. But they didn't. They reset and slogged forward through mud, fog, and madness, because that's what it took to make something truly ridiculous. Number 5. The chainmail looked authentic on screen, but it wasn't metal. It was wool, soaked in paint, and misery. With no real costume budget, the team made armor out of whatever they could find. Knitted wool, fishing gear, dish scrubbers. It looked decent, until it rained. And in Scotland, it rained a lot. The armor soaked up water like a sponge. By midday, it was twice as heavy. By evening, it was ice cold. The actors couldn't sit, couldn't dry off. And after every take, they just stood there, shaking in their soggy fake steel. All for a film where no one even rode a horse. Number 6. It's one of the wildest scenes in the film. A witch trial that makes absolutely no sense. "Burn her," they scream. And in the middle of that chaos, a familiar face if you know your British comedy history. The accused witch is played by Connie Booth, and the knight interrogating her, John Cleese. At the time, they were married. Later that same year, the two would reunite again, this time as Basil and Polly Fawlty in the legendary sitcom Fawlty Towers. So, in a strange twist, one of the most absurd moments in Holy Grail accidentally doubled as the first on-screen spark of one of the greatest British comedies ever made. They went from dunking her in a pond to running a hotel together. Because in the world of Monty Python, even a witch trial can lead to sitcom gold.
What makes you think she's a witch?
Well, she turned me into a newt.
A newt?
Got better.
Burn her anyway!
Number 7. It looks like an epic journey. Knights traveling from castle to castle across the kingdom. In reality, they had one castle, Doune Castle. The Scottish government let them film there, but limited what they could touch. So the Pythons got creative. They rotated rooms, repainted walls, flipped tapestries. Sometimes they just moved the camera 10 feet and called it a new location. Nearly every interior shot in the film, same building. The illusion of a kingdom, held together by duct tape and denial. Number 8. He looked like a king, calm, noble, commanding. But behind the armor, Graham Chapman was falling apart. He'd been cast as the straight man, the anchor in a storm of absurdity. But off camera, he was deep in a battle with alcoholism. A battle most of the crew didn't even know he was fighting. Some mornings, he couldn't remember his lines. Other days, he couldn't walk a straight line across the set. There were scenes where his sword shook from more than just nerves. The cast tried to help. Terry Jones quietly rewrote dialogue. Cleese adjusted scenes without making it obvious. They covered for him because they loved him. Chapman knew he was on the edge. He'd started drinking less, then trying to stop completely, in the middle of production. Not for his career, but for himself. He finished the film, and afterward, he got sober. The man who played King Arthur didn't just survive a quest on screen. He survived the one that really mattered, off it. Number 9. If you thought the cast looked familiar scene to scene, you weren't wrong. John Cleese didn't just play Sir Lancelot. He also played the French taunter, Tim the Enchanter, the Black Knight, a castle guard, a villager. Half the film, that's him. And the chaos wasn't just comedic. Cleese sprinted, rolled, fought, and fell, over and over. During one battle scene, he tore a muscle. During another, he hit the ground so hard he blacked out between takes. But he kept going. Because in a Monty Python film, the only thing more dangerous than a stunt was not being funny enough. Number 10. It's one of the most quoted jokes in comedy history.
It could be carried by an African swallow. Oh yeah, an African swallow may be, but not a European swallow, that's my point.
But that line wasn't in the original script. The Python crew had been arguing, off camera, about bird migration for real. They were bored, cold, and very British. The argument spiraled. Then they put it in the film. No punchline, no setup, just absurd logic delivered with total seriousness. And somehow, it stuck. Decades later, that ridiculous bird debate has its own Wikipedia page, all because some comedians got tired of talking about the weather. Number 11. It was supposed to be the dumbest joke in the movie. A cute little bunny that kills. The crew bought a real rabbit, trained it to hop on command, then smeared fake blood on its fur before the scene. What they didn't do? Tell the owner. When the bunny was returned, pink and sticky, the woman who loaned it nearly passed out. She thought they'd killed it. And yet, despite the mess, that blood-soaked rabbit became an icon. Tiny, fluffy, lethal, and totally unforgettable.
We have the holy hand grenade.
Yes, of course. The holy hand grenade of Antioch. Bring up the holy hand grenade.
How does it work?
I know not, my liege.
Consult the book of armaments.
And Saint Attila raised the hand grenade up on high, saying, and the Lord did grin.
Skip a bit, brother.
Then shalt thou count to 3. 3 shall be the number thou shalt count, and the number of the counting shall be 3.
1, 2, 5.
3, sir.
3.
Number 12. It's one of the wildest scenes in the film. A knight who keeps fighting, even as he loses all his limbs. But the idea didn't come from a brainstorm. It came from a classroom. John Cleese remembered a story from school, a tale of a soldier who refused to surrender, even when mortally wounded. He pitched it to the group. They laughed. They built on it, and the Black Knight was born. What started as a grim fable turned into absurd defiance. "'Tis but a scratch" isn't just a joke. It's the ultimate Python metaphor. Ridiculous, bloody, and stubborn to the end.
Just a flesh wound.
Look, stop that!
Chicken.
What are you going to do, bleed on me?
I'm invincible!
All right, we'll call it a draw.
Running away, eh? Come back here and take what's coming to you! I'll bite your legs off!
Number 13. The king of rock and roll had a favorite comedy, and it wasn't subtle. Elvis Presley didn't just like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, he was obsessed with it. According to his close friend Jerry Schilling, Elvis watched it dozens of times at Graceland, sometimes playing it on repeat. He quoted it at the dinner table, in hotel suites, on tour. He'd even interrupt conversations to drop his favorite line. It's just a flesh wound. He'd say it with a grin, even when things weren't going well, even when he was hurting. People around him didn't always understand the movie, but Elvis did. The absurdity, the defiance, the laughter in the face of pain. It was British, it was bonkers, and it was exactly the kind of rebellion he loved. The Pythons never knew him, but somewhere inside Graceland, between gold records and velvet paintings, a VHS copy of Holy Grail got worn out by a legend. Number 14. It didn't start with a joke. It started with a Swedish moose. If you've seen the opening credits, you know something's off. Subtitles appear, then spiral into nonsense. Suddenly, there's a moose involved, then flashing fonts, then a threat of firing the subtitle writer. It wasn't random. It was a parody of Bergman's somber films. Long, poetic, starkly subtitled. The Pythons turned that into a gag and made the credits part of the punchline. Before the movie even starts, you're already inside the joke. Number 15. He was everywhere. A knight, a peasant, a guard, a minstrel, a villager covered in filth. Michael Palin didn't just act in Holy Grail, he multiplied. He played over a dozen roles throughout the film, sometimes changing characters between setups on the same day. He was Sir Galahad, the mud-scooping peasant, the head of the Knights Who Say Knee. He even voiced characters off-screen, just to keep the madness flowing. Palin became the film's secret engine. Effortless, adaptable, always the right kind of strange. Graham Chapman? He played the least. Just 4 roles. The hiccoughing guard, the middlehead, the voice of God, and, of course, King Arthur. But that wasn't by accident. While Palin was cast as a comic shapeshifter, jumping from peasants to knights to shrieking forest weirdos, Chapman was given a different job entirely. He wasn't meant to blend in. He was meant to stand apart. As King Arthur, he had to ground the film, to play it straight, to let the madness swirl around him and never crack. He didn't switch accents. He didn't change costumes. He stayed locked in, playing the story's one serious man in a world full of lunatics. Because someone had to hold the quest together, and Chapman made that stillness feel royal. The contrast worked. One was the engine, the other the compass, and together they held the kingdom.
I'm your king.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
You don't vote for kings.
Well, how'd you become king then?
Strange women lying in ponds, distributing swords is no basis for a system of government.
Be quiet.
I mean, if I went round saying I was an emperor,
Will you shut up?
ah, now we see the violence inherent in the system.
Shut up! Help! Help! I'm being repressed, bloody peasant!
Oh, what a giveaway. Did you hear that?
Number 16. There's no Monty, no Python, no secret meaning. The group just wanted something that sounded vaguely important and totally ridiculous. Monty evoked an old British general. Python felt dangerous and dumb. Together, it meant nothing and everything. They even debated calling the movie Bicycle Repairman and the Holy Grail for a while. But when Monty Python stuck, it became more than a name. It became a signal that what you were about to watch was going to be brilliant and completely unhinged. Number 17. Big crowd scenes, angry mobs, chanting peasants. You'd think they hired extras. They didn't. They borrowed students. They pulled tourists off nearby hiking trails. They even bribed locals with sandwiches just to fill the frame. The production had no crowd budget, so they faked it. Sometimes the same people appeared in multiple towns, just wearing different hats. There's a reason the background always feels a little off, because it wasn't a medieval world, it was a field trip. Number 18. They thought it would bomb. A weird little British comedy with no stars, no real horses, and no ending. Even the cast wasn't sure anyone would get it. But Monty Python and the Holy Grail didn't just find an audience, it exploded. Word spread fast. College campuses, late-night screenings, underground press. The film became a cult sensation before it even left theaters. It cost just over $200,000 to make. It brought in more than $5 million. It didn't just do well. It saved Monty Python from going broke. The group had been burned by the BBC, burned by budgets. They were nearly out of options. But this film, this ridiculous mud-covered, blood-soaked satire, gave them a second life. It funded Life of Brian. It launched global tours. It turned 6 surrealists into comedy legends. Because sometimes, the weirdest quest is the one that actually pays off. Number 19. It's hard to picture this film in tuxedos and champagne, but it happened. Holy Grail had its official premiere at the Cannes Film Festival, the same festival known for high art, prestige cinema, and very few exploding rabbits. The screening reportedly confused some of the audience. Others roared with laughter. It became one of the strangest hits to ever grace the French Riviera, because even in Cannes, there's room for absurdity, especially when it wears a crown and yells, "Ni."
Who are you?
We are the knights who say
No, not the knights who say nay.
the same. We want a shrubbery.
A what? Please.
Number 20. Years later, Holy Grail was reimagined as a Broadway show. Spamalot. Big budget, Tony Award-winning, hugely successful. But when the original cast read the first draft of the stage script, they weren't impressed. Cleese said it missed the tone. Idol called it too safe. Gilliam flat out refused to be involved. The show was rewritten, recast, rebuilt. And eventually, it worked, but not without resistance from the men who started it all. Because even when your story ends in song, you still have to fight for the laugh. Bonus fact. They'd filmed castles, coconuts, killer rabbits, and a black knight with no limbs. But by the final week of production, there was still no ending. Seriously, they had no idea how to wrap it all up. The team was broke. The shoot was behind schedule. The actors were freezing in Scottish mud. So on the day of filming, they wrote one last scene. The quest interrupted. The cops arrive. Everyone gets arrested. It made no sense. It broke every rule. And somehow, it worked. Because in true Monty Python fashion, the perfect ending was to have no ending at all. Monty Python and the Holy Grail wasn't just a comedy. It was a revolt. It broke the rules, the budget, and sometimes the actors themselves. And somehow, it lived. Through midnight screenings, VHS tapes, Broadway adaptations, meme culture, even classrooms now study its madness like scripture. It was fearless. It was stupid. It was brilliant. Because when you throw out every expectation, when you make a film with no horses, no logic, and no ending, you don't just make people laugh. You change what comedy is allowed to be. So if you've ever shouted "Ni," clopped coconuts in public, or screamed, "It's just a flesh wound," you already know. This wasn't just a movie, it was a holy quest. And somehow, we're still writing. Drop your favorite scene in the comments, give that like button a proper taunt, and subscribe for more cinematic chaos that changed the game. Now, go away, or we shall taunt you a second time.